around the turn of the century, who was the one that kicked off. He was really the one that kicked off this idea that you can't believe in evolution or accept evolution or scientific fact and to be a Christian. Which any look or glance at the church fathers or any of the first 1,000 years of Christianity, or even up until, I would say, the French Revolution, that, science and religion never clashed. Not even with Galileo, which I'm going to have to make probably about 2 videos about that to explain what went down and why. Most people don't know. Some people try to cop out and say, well, it's just because he was the jerky way he said it. It really had more to do with other things, but again, I digress. Fundamentalists now, when we use the word fundamentalist, I guess the colloquialism or the slang or what it has become to mean, instead of this denomination of being a fundamentalist Christian, is fanatic. Die hard, right? Usually wacky and kind of crazy, or white knuckled, that type of thing. People who will not stray from the party line, that type of thing. I would say historic Christianity has no there's no fundamentals of the historic church. Possibly of the historic church, but not of Christianity. I believe you already saw the video where I asked people, please name me some of the fundamentals of Christianity. I believe you already watched that one, since you talked about that. The fundamentalist atheist thing, and just to clear it up, one, it pisses them off. Right? And I'm not going for pissing off regular atheists. I've said multiple times I'd rather there be more atheists than let me put it this way, I'd rather have all of the evangelicals and fundamentalist, Pentecostal, Presbyterian, I'd rather have all of them be agnostic humanists than Christians. Although and this is the problem with the word, is that the definition of Christianity that the West has come up with, and heaven, hell, and God, I will have to say I don't believe. I would have to say I'm not a Christian. I don't believe in heaven, hell, or God, because what the English uses, what it means, like when you talk to somebody, the Immaculate Conception, right? Bill Maher, it pisses me off. He gets this wrong every time. The Immaculate Conception refers to the conception of Mary, the mother of Jesus. And the Immaculate Conception is a doctrine about her conception. It's not the virgin birth of Jesus. That's not the Immaculate Conception. Just like original sin. Original sin, there's doctrine behind it. And it's a technical term, I should say, a technical theological term. We in the East, whether Oriental or Eastern, again, those are 2 words that mean the exact same thing, reject both of those. Even sin, I mean, if I were to talk to somebody who didn't have a knowledge of our culture, our tradition, our religion, I know that's a bad word in the West, um, wouldn't understand a word we would say, because sin, we don't believe in the Western version of sin. That's silly. Um, to us, God is the closest thing to our God, because He's not a God. He's the God above gods. He is the existing one. Is the Tao. Is more like Tao. The Tao is the closest thing that we can compare um, our the one who we worship. That's why when you see me write, I write G, capital G dash D. And when I'm talking about other people's or the other things, like gods or God, it would be lowercase and be spelled. So things like sin, I mean, hamartia, it's an archery term, it means to miss the mark, right? So if you're not dead on, but in the West, sin means transgression of the law, and it pisses off their God, and their God kind of is like a pagan god. It's like a sky god. It many of them do have basically a god, like, which we find really weird because Christianity, historically, if you look at it, Christianity is not based on the Bible whatsoever. Now, the Bible agrees with the church because the church was the one that wrote those books, edited them, compiled them, and then sometimes edited them. And there were different canons for different seas. To this day, the canon of the Ethiopians is different from those in the Sea of Antioch. And it was only a few hundred years ago that 2nd and 3rd John and 2nd Peter were not accepted by us, by the Syriacs. And there's a ban in all of the East against the Apocalypse of John, which you guys call Book of Revelation. So it's hard to even talk about it, So I understand your irritation of terms, your pickiness of terms. I get that way too. I get very, people's speech is important, right? Shouldn't be just thrown around. Sorry, this is longer than 4 minutes. But yeah, I mean, the first time we see a mention of the books that a list of books that line up to to the West's New Testament is the 39th Paschal letter of Athanasius of Alexandria in 367. And that was just a list, but we don't actually have codices or books that contain the books of the Bible that match anything of today until between around 6 to 900 AD, 600 to AD 900. We don't have, because there's always the Didache or Barnabas or something else like that in there, or they'll be using Diatessaron. And that's where fundamentalist atheists come in, because and I know I've spoken to fundamentalist evangelical proselytizing Christians it's against our. We're not allowed to proselytize. It's forbidden in Christianity. We're the ancient church, so we just can say that. It absolutely forbidden. But these evangelical, fundamentalist, proselytizing Christians, and I've met them when they were that, and then they, for some reason or another, become atheist or lose their belief in, this weird sky god, and all of a sudden the Bible is useless or it's a fairy tale. Unfortunately, I don't have one sitting around here to illustrate my point, but it's like, man, are you crazy? Did they actually pretty much worship the damn thing? Not that, these are writings that were collected by early groups of people, and they give us insight into these communities. And it's funny that they don't notice that you have Pauline writings, authentic Pauline writings, and then you have anti-Pauline writing. You have Gospels that are written to counter other Gospels. Luke was written to counter Matthew. These were used in very early times in early communities that the community that used Matthew hated the community that used Luke. It pisses them off, but they still are fundamentalists. They've just gone one God less. They haven't learned anything. They haven't developed or done anything. It was a magical book for them that fell down from heaven, which doesn't exist, by the way. Heaven, that is, the Bible exists. And now that they're atheists, now it's just all fairy tale and myth. They have, it's like they're as brainless and as militant as they were before, as a fundamentalist Christian. The militant, proselytizing, fundamentalist, us, them, and I like differentiating between that and somebody who says, I don't believe in a God, I don't need to explain it to you. For us, I don't want to say we conceal our religion. I don't pray. I won't pray in front of people. It's not even prayer. Again, prayer. It's a hard word. Do my meditations. It's actually meditations is actually the correct proper term. This is running long in the tooth. But my reason for using fundy atheist or fundamentalist atheist is because and this happens a lot, they act like their enemy. Their enemy is the evangelical fundamentalists, the Pentecostal, these proselytizing groups. But then the problem that I see is they project that upon, not only on things like Lutheranism and Roman Catholicism, but also on things like Eastern Orthodoxy, Oriental Orthodoxy, the Assyrian Church of the East. And it's like, because you've battled the fundamentalists so long, now you're taking on their attributes, or sometimes they just are people who 16 years of their life, fundamentalist, evangelical, proselytizing, Protestant Christian, who is very militant, who just want one God less. There's still a fundamentalist. I don't mean that they have fundamentals. I mean the fanatic, the nut job, the loon.